Boss versus Coach. The last episode, we tried to unfold the dilemma between micromanagement and delegation. And I think the episode went very well. You'll soon be seeing that video shortly on our YouTube channel. So, Boss versus Coach, the book is about to come. The series is flowing well. The podcast is getting quite a lot of appreciation from you all. To tell you a little background, this all started some 18 months back through a random post from my side out of my experience and my understanding of how a coach should be and what I see in the leaders which characterize them as a boss. Slowly and gradually, that journey started going well, and the series gained a lot of traction. It became big, and with support from you all, I got in touch with Olivia, and that's where we also were reached out by Ogbridge for our book, which is gonna hit the stores in Feb this year. Uh, we have started the podcast. We have got you a lot of leaders, a lot of coaches, the coaches' perspective as well. But we thought of going little beyond. Boss versus coach is not only for the leaders of today, it is for the leaders of tomorrow. And to bring that perspective tonight, we have got two very special young and future leaders on the show. Before I go to them, I would like to bring in my colleague and co host, Olivia. Olivia, what's your take on Boss versus Coach, and how do you see this series shining out?
Well, it's been a lovely journey with our audience chipping in, so many thoughts coming to us directly as well as through this channel and on LinkedIn. And it does feel like we're hitting a nerve. There's a lot of people out there going, bosses shouldn't just be bossing. There's something about how a leader leads instead. And it just feels like there's something in the zeitgeist where I think it's exciting that people are interested and wanting to join the conversation.
Absolutely. So let's bring the guest on the show tonight, Olivia, and we have got, as I said in the beginning, we have got two very young but bright and the future aspiring leaders on the show. So let me bring on show Riddhi Kaul and Namit Jain. Riddhi and Namit are the second year MBA students with SCMHRD, and they have been following our series for a long time by now. So Riddhi and Namit, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mohit. Thank you, Olivia. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome.
So starting with Riddhi, what's your understanding on boss versus coach, and how do you see this entire concept unfolding?
So I'll just start by introducing myself. So as Mohit rightly said, I'm a final year MBA finance student at SCMHRD, and particularly I have worked with Zomato and Deloitte India as a part of its consulting practice previously. So when I came across this podcast on boss versus coach, the first thing that came to my mind is how the dynamic scenario of the current workplace is changing, because as the Gen Zs come in, the kind of requirements that those employees have from their bosses as well as coaches is quite changing. And that is something that I can see in the podcast as well around the discussions that are happening recently.
Thanks, Riddhi. Namit, over to you.
Yeah, very well put. So let me begin with a short introduction. Hello everyone, I'm Namit. I'm currently pursuing MBA in Sales and Marketing at SCMHRD. So I come from a very different background. So prior to my MBA, I worked in my family's agri-business for about 10 years. So that gives me, I think, sort of unique experience handling the unorganized sector. Whereas onto the topic of the podcast, boss versus coach, I think it's an important topic to be discussed, especially for people like us who are transitioning from, academia to corporates. It's incredibly relevant to understand what are the different leadership styles, and also to reflect on what kind of leaders do we aspire to be when we go out in the industry. So I think, it's incredibly relevant.
Thank you, Namit. Thank you, Riddhi. So just to start with, what is your take on leadership? How do you see leaders, and what is your definition of leaders?
I'll go ahead. Namit, go ahead. No worries.
Okay, so I think when we talk about leaders, one statement that often come forwards is leading from the front or leading by an example. But I think as the new generation of workers are coming into the industry, the Gen Z, as Riddhi rightly spoke before, what I think the statement by Mr. Ratan Tata would resonate more with me. Like if you want to go far, if you want to walk fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, walk with others. So that is my take as to how modern leaders should come up. Instead of leading from the front, lead with people, understand them, inspire them, give them some space to learn, to make mistakes, and to learn from those mistakes.
Yeah,
I think I agree with what Namit said. So basically, even I had the opportunity to work under various great bosses that have showed me what kind of leader I want to be in the future. And when I look at the modern leadership, it's much more about, it is evolving in kind of a collaborating and empathetic environment. It is much more about adaptability, inclusivity. It is not just merely doing the tasks. It's about changing the landscape as well, as to how you treat your joinees, as to how you treat your coaches as well. Because traditionally we have seen leadership as much more authoritative and giving regulations, giving this task needs to be done. But what I've seen recently is like many leaders are being much more coming forward with their coaches and investing in them, making sure they are empowered as well, and they are actually investing in their growth as well.
so Olivia, leading from the front or walking along?
Well, I am, as you always like to remind everyone, decades into my career. So I am a proud member of Gen X. And it's not like we liked being bossed around. It's not like we wanted people just to tell us what to do. And there's been some amazing books written, if I think back to Jim Collins with Good to Great, as a fantastic book about case studies of companies that really did see their people as humans, as people to be encouraged and to be developed and to be enjoyed rather than cogs in a machine. So in lots of ways, this isn't new, but I think what is new is that the later generations use their voice in a way that mine certainly never has. So I think that there is something interesting here about, it's about the new generations. I don't know that that's true. I think it's about people. People want to belong. People want to be seen and heard. They want to know that they personally are making a difference. And for my money, a good leader is someone who allows that and to really encourage people to be themselves, be their best selves, to grow into what they can be. So whether you talk about it coming from the front or encouraging from the back, I quite like it when a leader's by my side, so that they are with me each step of the way. They're not pushing me ahead. They're not dragging me along. They're at my pace and they're supporting me in that way.
Very well said, Olivia. I agree. But yeah, I think, yes, so you are a supporter of Gen X, but I believe the Gen Z and the generation to come thereafter will also set up great examples of what a leadership should be. And this is how the transformation that we wish to see out of boss versus coach will come out. So Namit, Riddhi, very quickly, you have been following the series for a long time. What is your understanding on key differentiators between a boss and a coach?
So traditionally, I would say when we looked at our bosses, it was much more authoritative, as I said. It's much more related to task delegation and achieving targets. So when we look at a coach, I believe it's emphasizing more on collaboration. How a coach invests in your trajectory by individual development, telling you what you need to do. I would like to cite an example from my personal experience as well. While I was working at Deloitte, I had the opportunity to work with a great leader, and he was, as an analyst, it would seem that that would be a leader kind of, a boss kind of authoritative figure. But later on, I realized that how he actually helped me grow in my career as well and give me insights as to how I can get better at the work and I'm doing and actually put more confidence into my work.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Riddhi and Namit.
correct. So my take on it is a little bit different because my first boss or coach, you can say, was my dad itself. I was working in my family business, so the way learning was imparted to me was quite different as to what I experienced in the after coming to corporate. So facing problems was quite a different way as we went about it. So when a problem came, it was not really that I was handed out the answer, but rather I was forced to go and understand it first. Like, for example, once there was an issue with one of our local traders. So instead of my dad just picking up the phone and getting it done with, I was asked to leave my home and stay there in Madhya Pradesh for over a month or so. So that is my take as to what a good boss or a good coach, whatever the way you put it, should be like. They should give you the chance to grow and adapt as per the problems, not just handing you out the answers. Because when you're facing a problem, if the answer is rightly handed out to you, next time you're in the same situation, you'll be looking for answers from your boss again. But once you learn how to deal with that particular issue, you'll be able to come up with more innovative or more efficient solutions to deal with it.
Nice thoughts. So, Olivia, boss and a coach, how can one do a self-assessment to see where they stand?
Oh, okay. I think that's quite hard. I think most of us think we're doing the very best we can and that we're doing a great job and that we've got nothing to develop. So, I think actually asking for feedback is a great thing to do. Asking the people around you, how's it going? Do you feel like you're developing in this space? Now, if you're a very directive and mean boss, they might say yes, even if it ain't true. So, we need to be careful about how we ask for feedback. But also there's something about developing your own self-awareness. So if, for example, you agree that just giving, that we were talking about micromanaging or just giving instructions isn't right, it's perfectly possible for any of us at the end of the day or at a few times during the day to reflect on the conversations that we had. Did we jump in and tell people what to do and boss them about? Or did we actually step back, ask them questions and encourage them to think? So I think a little bit of self-awareness is the first thing. And even if all you do to start with is notice that actually your behavioural habits are to tell and not ask. If your behavioural habits are to fill the air rather than giving people a bit of silence to think, noticing is always the first step. So once you've done that, you can then think, okay, so what do I want to do about that? And I could say, Mohit, come February, there's a great book coming out that will give them all the steps that they need.
No, that's true. And I think that book should be read by all. That's what I hope. So I believe that a boss builds followers, a leader builds leader. A boss builds followers, a coach builds leader. So Riddhi, what do you think of this thought? And tomorrow, once you step into the leadership world, what kind of leader would you like to become? Just any thoughts on that?
So, when I think about it, what kind of leader I want to be, it's much more related to how I want to lead my teams in the context of any situation. I want to have a kind of an open communication environment where they are easily approachable. For example, if I have a team and they're easily approaching me with the problems they are facing, but the one thing that I have learned from my bosses is that whenever someone approaches with a problem, make sure they are adding up a solution with it. So that is something that I would also, portray to my coaches as such, because that is something that I want to inculcate in my team. Additionally, I want to make sure that I am actively taking part in making sure they build their career as well, because it's a two-way street. If they are helping me out on working towards organizational goals, it is equally my responsibility as well to help them build on their skills as well, to make sure those are the people who get on to become better leaders tomorrow. So that is something that I want to go ahead with.
Namit?
Yeah, very rightly put by Riddhi. So I would follow quite a similar approach. See, as Olivia rightly said, that no one likes to be bossed around. So I think I feel the same way. So being a leader, I would like to be someone who, rather than enforcing his decisions, would rather build and mold consensus amongst the team. So I would be open to feedback for my work, and similarly, I expect the employees are open to constructive feedback on theirs. And a balancing act is necessary. I cannot be going around putting up unachievable deadlines or targets for the team and expect them to their work off and achieve them. So I have to be reasonable on my end and have to expect reasonable outcomes from them as well. So I think I would want to be that balancing leader who can actually manage both parts of the job, keeping my team happy as well as looking out on the targets that I need to achieve for my company.
Well thoughts. I think, Olivia, I'm so impressed and so inspired that the generation who's gonna hit the industry soon is so vision, so focused, and their understanding is aligning very well to the concept of boss versus coach. I think our job is done. So I think they are the ones who are gonna take it forward, and
We've had
so
great
inspired.
managers to learn from, no?
Sure, that's the point.
Well, it's an
Olivia,
interesting thing, just as a closing thought, that so often people will say, but you've got to be directive with junior people who don't have experience, because they don't know anything. And I think we've got two great candidates here to prove that's wrong. You know, we've got bright, smart people who have equipped themselves academically, who have work experience. We need to trust that. We need to help them to learn more about themselves and more about what they know. It's a great opportunity.
So, Olivia, before we close, I would like to have some thoughts on you on leaders who are behaving like a boss and who can start behaving like a coach. What are the few things which they need to stop doing or start doing to become a coach from being a boss?
I think it goes back to what I said before, is notice the impact that you're having on others. So, and actually really gave some really nice examples. It's like, if your team isn't coming to you, if your team isn't talking to you when they've got problems or challenges, or even when they've got successes, what does that say to you if they don't feel you're someone that they can interact with or be honest with? And picking up with what Namit said, are they giving you feedback? Are you asking for feedback from the people around you? And when you give feedback, how do they respond? Do they sit there bracing themselves, waiting for a lashing, or are they open and excited because they know they'll learn from you? So as I said before, I think self-awareness is a great first step. Is just notice the impact you have on others. That tells you the boss that you are. If you're the sort of person who walks into a room and changes the mood immediately from being quite happy to being tense, well, what are you doing? What is it that is in your behaviour that's creating that response? So I think look at yourself and maybe ask others. But if you don't feel like you can ask others, you can always just check in with yourself as a start point.
On that note, thank you, Olivia. Thank you, Namit and Riddhi. I think it was an interesting conversation, and I can say that the transformation that we all are looking to will only happen once we start thinking on those lines, when we start talking about that. And I'm so glad to see that you both are so focused, so vision, and you really appreciate that there is a time that we need more of coaches, more of leaders who can vision us, who can give us a vision, who can show us a direction, and we don't need bosses who can just micromanage and manage. So from manager to being a true leader is what is needed today. On that note, thank you very much, and I request you to keep following the series and do look out for the book. Have your friends to see it as well, and I'm telling you, it wouldn't be a disappointment for either of you all. So we have done a lot of efforts, lot of hard work in shaping it in a nice manner, in a concise manner. So the book will not be a Bible, it will not be a rule book, it will just be a guidance which will ignite many thoughts and will leave you with many more towards the end of it. On that note, thank you very much. Stay tuned and goodbye.
Thanks so much.